It's such a joyful moment to just bring the hands together and feel in your heart what is alive, and to know what brings you here, to confirm in the heart the joy of the moment. Hmm. Hmm. Just to remember in every moment what it is that is calling. Hmm. Where is your naturalness in this moment? Where is the being in this moment? And every moment is a moment to remember and to be yourself, to relax, to let go, to surrender, and just be here, just as you are. The letting go of all ideas and concepts, letting go of needing to be anyone, letting go of needing for it to look a certain way, letting go of all of those concepts that are not actually accurate. And of course, any concept is an obscuration. And so it's to be in every moment completely revealed. In every moment, just to be here with no guard, without the protection of ideas and beliefs, to just be here unguarded, to not know. When you don't know, you're constantly surprised, right? The needing to know is another protection. So to be here, undone, revealed, not needing to put on a mask, not needing to put on a facade, not needing to show up as someone who's got this or got that, who gets it. It's actually to show up without knowing anything, to show up in this moment and this moment and this moment, absolutely revealed, without knowing a thing. And in such an openness, such an emptiness, here is your naturalness. Here is the being, just simply being. Being itself, being yourself, just as you are. And hear the purity, hear the perfection, not diluted with ideas and concepts, not masked or hidden behind protection. And that it's not about, even there can be concepts that it's about looking and being shiny and smiley, but not even so, right? Show up with a tear-stained face. Show up with a clenched jaw because there's some stress. It doesn't matter. But the more that you come to the naturalness, all of that holding, all of that protection, it naturally disappears. It dissolves into itself. It dissolves into its true nature, because all of those holding patterns are indeed just that, just patterns in consciousness. And all of the patternings of consciousness, it can keep moving in habitual ways. But in the deepest essence, all consciousness is in a natural flow to know itself, in a natural flow to be itself, to unravel the patternings, to unravel the habitual ways that keep the flow limited, and to bust out, completely bust out of all of those patternings, bust out into the freedom of the natural flow of being. So every moment is a moment to bust out free, to just burst out of the confines, out of the limitation. Just be yourself. Be your unabandoned self, unadorned. It's like skinny dipping in every moment. Holy skinny dipping, just to totally be here without all of the protection, without the ideas and the concepts, to just dip into every moment, totally relaxed as yourself, free, unburdened and revealed. Such freedom in this depth of relaxation. So then we let go of all of these ideas, all of these additional burdens that we start to bring forward about what it needs to look like. And if I'm really getting this, then I should be like this and I should behave. We just start adding on new layers of concept. It's about not being any which way, because you're not the one that's any way. You're that which is before the person, before the individual. You're that which is before everything. So it's not about someone showing up, even in all of your spiritual finery. It's still a mask. If there's someone here that's showing up with any kind of idea, it's still just one layer too many. So just slip out of that idea and just dip into the cool, fresh beauty of being yourself. What actually happens is you discover that you're not that mythical idea of an enlightened being. You discover that you're more human, more real. That divine reality is this freedom where you're just not constrained and limited within all of these holding patterns and ideas, all of the shoulds and the musts and have tos. You let go of all social conditioning, everything learned, and just be your wild, unabandoned self. You cannot know how to be or what it is like. You can just let go into this moment, into the utter not knowing, and just be here just as you are. The simple being that isn't asking for you to recreate yourself as some idea of a perfected one, but that the perfected one is the one that is free of someone. The perfected one is the one with a capital O, and you are that one. You're that one, the perfected one, the divine wholeness. So we've gathered so many ideas of how we need to be, how we need to show up. And then all these ideas of what awakening is and what it looks like, and none of it's true. None of it's true. We all have unique laws of nature. So there's always going to be a uniqueness. Now the mind could look around a room and say, I wonder which one's in here, right? If we were to say, okay, in this room of 100 people, there's 10 enlightened beings here. You look around, which ones would you choose, right? What would be the criteria that you would be looking for? Every being would pick out different ones. It's not about the laws of nature. It's about freedom. It's about who you are before the laws of nature, who you are in truth, who you are completely undone of all ideas, all knowledge, and resting in the only knowledge that is relevant and important, and that is self-knowledge, the knowing of yourself, the knowing of the being in being the being is all that is relevant. And here there is no how-to, there is no manual. It makes it more fun that you discover in every moment what this unfolding is, because slowly, once there is an opening to recognize there is no separation, and there's a seeing through the illusion of being separated from the whole, being divided, once there is the illuminated knowing that there is no separation and you are not the individual person, it's an unfolding that is a gradual refinement, which is like gathering all of the pieces of yourself through illuminating as the pure aware being all of the patternings of consciousness, to free the egocentric patterning, free the conditioning, free the karmic obscurations, free and burn everything that you are not. Build a big fire and burn it all up, everything that you are not, and leave in utter surrender just what you are in truth shining. And so the burning fire, the holy fire that burns everything that you are not, essentially it's life. It's life, the flow of life. And the flow of life is offering in every moment the possibility to openly receive the flow of grace, to be yourself, to rest and openly receive, to be so open, so wide, so vast that you include everything. And when there is a noticing that some kind of resistance is arising, it is to stretch, widen. Notice the resistance, welcome the energetic signature of that resistance, and find out, can this too be included? And then we reference our deep knowing that if there is only one, if there is only God, then this too is that one, the perfected one, the one with a capital O. And so it is to meet the moment as the Holy O, the Holy One, seeing only itself. to see the shining essence in everyone and everything, to see the shining essence of the self, of the Holy One, the perfected One, in every moment, in everyone, in everything. And wherever it is not seen, it is just a little kink in the fabric that is inviting the iron to pass over, to press out those wrinkles. And we press out the wrinkles by resting in the recognition, the knowing of being the being and being aware, shining the light, being the openness that welcomes the resistance, that welcomes whatever stress might arise, whether it's emotional stress, whether it's protective stress, whether it is that charge in the nervous system. Essentially, it's all stress and it's all old holding patterns. Essentially, it's all memory. So how we surrender all of that memory, and in that we surrender past, we surrender attachment to past. When we surrender attachment to past, we also surrender our fears. And we are here right now in the moment, fearless, wide open, fearless heart. And this happens through meeting all of the energy charges that our nervous system brings forward kindly, yes. The nervous system brings forward these energy charges kindly, surfacing all that is ready to let go of the patterning and flow in the one rushing river into the ocean of divine blissful knowing. So in a way, the holy burning, yes, it's like a fire. When we burn, when the stress is in the nervous system, it's like a holy burning, but it's also like jumping into the rushing river and being carried, feeling a little bit of a jiggity jig as we're carried by a rushing river. But the rushing river is rushing to the ocean. The rushing river is like this divine excitement. So the holy burning, on one level, it can feel like a burning that feels uncomfortable. But when we really open to feel the discomfort, the stress, just as aliveness, we start to realize, oh, this is the rushing river. This is excited anticipation, rushing into the nectarine bliss of the vast ocean of being, the oneness. And so every release in truth, it might start out feeling like a holy burning. But when we stay with it, stay present, loving, open, just welcoming as the awareness of it, instead of identifying with the story, this kind of welcoming, it moves us through the fire where the ego sense that feels to be separate isn't getting what it wants, doesn't like it, don't like it. Stay with it as the aliveness of just the feeling, and it opens into this rushing river that is carrying you. And it's like the moment of surrender is the moment where the burning fire of stress is recognized to be the rushing river. It's the moment where the holding pattern surrenders itself and lets go into divine wholeness. We could say where the human condition lets go into its divine whole truth, into the naturalness, into the openness, into freedom. And there's a way that every single pattern is carried through this process of transmutation. And so the deeper that we're resting in the being, aware of the being, aware of the subtle fineness of being the being, the felt sense of being the being, the subtlety of perception of yourself as the being invites also this subtle perception of the consciousness, the aliveness of consciousness, which allows there to be a feeling and a meeting of all of the stresses and this process of transmutation in a more and more subtle way, in a way that allows us to be more and more present, to bear it all, let's say, right? The one that says, no, 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 can't bear it too much, and goes to the mind as protection. There starts to be this ability to be vigilant and have this kind of resolve that can remain and stay with the fire, the burning, until the surrender happens. And the subtle, the ability to feel the subtlety is the ability to feel the energy signature, the consciousness, the aliveness in any kind of stress, and not go to the interpretation, which is memory, which is the attachment to past. So in a way, it's a kind of inquiry that where we use the nervous system. And the inquiry is through the nervous system. It's through having this subtle awakeness to the aliveness of the stress, just as an energy signature, and to be able to be so fully present with whatever that stress is as an energy signature that we can meet the burning, meet the discord, even though the mind doesn't like it and is attempting through the ego patterning to protect. Go back, go back, go back, get out of the fire, go back, reverse, right? It's trying everything. Get out of here. But in the knowing of the being, the deeper, clear knowing says stay, 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 surrender, stay here, burn, let it burn. This is not who you are. This is old stress. This is memory. This is memory recall. This is the habit to attach to the past and bring forward the old story that says, this is why you've got to get out of here, right? This is why you've got to get out of here. But the knowing of the being says, no, stay, stay, stay. Don't go back. Don't go back. Stay here. Feel the burn, because the burn is going to open to the rushing river of excited anticipation. It's going to open to a natural surrender. Stay here. Feel the feelings. Feel the subtlety of just the energy, just the aliveness. Be with the aliveness. Be with the aliveness of whatever that charge is, until it lets go and releases. Now, when it releases, it might just feel like a holy relief. It might bring tears in that surrender. It's the letting go of the grip of the human condition, the condition that is memory and this attachment to past. It's a releasing of the grip of separation into the wholeness. It's the releasing of the discordant patterning of consciousness that plays as egocentric behaviors and conditioning. It's the releasing of all of that into the pure essence nature of consciousness. We could say mind consciousness releasing into pure consciousness. Mind consciousness, which is like patterns, releasing into the freedom of the flow of pure consciousness. So as these words come, it is to feel the resonance and recognition. The intelligence of consciousness, of the consciousness that you are, will recognize the truth of the mechanistic functioning. It will recognize, oh, yeah, that's right, that's how it works. In the hearing of it, it suddenly seems so obvious. It seems obvious because you are the intelligence of the consciousness that is functioning in all of these ways. So it's not mental understanding, although so too can the mind consciousness hear this and create another concept out of it. But it doesn't matter. Concepts don't matter. It's about not being glued to them. It's about not being attached to the concepts. Being attached to the concepts looks like, I know how it is. I know this is the way. This is my position. This is where I stand on this, and I'm not budging, right? This is the conceptual position of someone that's in protection. And this is all about seeing that protection and opening through that protection, recognizing that the protection is protecting you from everything that is longed for, protecting you from the love that is unconditional and free and pure, protecting you from unconditional happiness, protecting you from the delight and joy of knowing yourself. It's protecting you from being the abiding peace of the unmoving, unchanging, silent being that you are in truth. It's protecting you from God. It's protecting you from freedom, the freedom of being the unbounded, unlimited, uncontained, wildly free self. And so when we can see through the protection, we are freeing all of the holding patterns into true essence nature. And what we are expressing here is just simply the mechanistic functioning. So we don't need to use scary words like annihilation, right? Guaranteed to turn the ego right into the other direction, straight into reverse. I'm out of here. Annihilation does not sound like something I am interested in today or any other day. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So we've got to be honest here. We don't need to use scary words like annihilation just because somebody once might have said that. Like Ramana, he used to say really scary things. He was really hardcore. He used really direct language. Well, the translation looks like that. But we don't need to use those kind of words. But we're not, at the same time, we're not buffing the ego. We're not making it easy. We're just speaking the truth. We're just speaking about the mechanistic functioning of consciousness, and that it knows. Consciousness is intelligence. Intelligence is God. Intelligence knows, it's wisdom, true wisdom, pure knowledge. It knows how to untangle itself. What we are pointing to is that in being yourself, you have the wisdom, you have the intelligence, you know the way, you are the light, You are the way. You are the living answer to every question. It's about being here now, resting as the awake presence of being that is simple, innocent, and open, empty of all of the ideas, and simply here free. That all that is required is right here. Now, we could say in truth that in this, the patternings of consciousness that are protective are dissolved. And in the dissolution, egocentric patterning also dissolves. We're just saying it kindly so that we don't have to say annihilation, right? So it's the same thing, though. It's the same thing. It's, you know, when there's a mind, the mind is going to hear a word and interpret it, give it meaning. We're just inviting all interpretation to just let go. Be aware of interpretation. Be aware of everything that's moving and changing. Be aware of the flows of consciousness that are mental patternings, that are protection. And so as we speak of this, the invitation is to feel the resonance in and as the intelligent consciousness that you are, and recognize in truth how this all works, and how, in fact, there's an innate kindness, a compassionate patience in how this all flows, because it's all one. The one is not seeking to annihilate or obliterate parts of itself. It's moving to include all of itself in true knowledge. It's seeking to bring the knowing that everything is already included, that you already are everything that you are longing for, that you already are free, you already are the self in truth. And so then the sense, well, why do I feel to be someone? Why do I feel? Because there are ideas and beliefs and thoughts that are being identified with. But you can recognize right here now, as we point to the being and as we speak this truth, what you are in truth, the consciousness, starts to align with the recognition in the resonance of the transmission of the speaking here, because what is speaking and what is listening is the same, and that sameness starts to shine. It starts to rock. It starts to say, yep, this is what I am, right? It starts to shine. It starts to resonate at a fine, recognizable frequency as these words come. So I'm not giving you something that you're not. This form here is a vehicle for this flow to move through. And as the flow moves through, where you are the same, where we are the same, where we are one, that one, the one with a capital O, where we are that one, it starts to wake up and resonate and attune with the frequency, the fineness of pure consciousness, and recognize itself. It starts to be magnetized towards itself. It starts to get enlivened, like, let's say, like iron filings. As the magnetic energy comes in, the iron filings start to move in an enlivened, like, excitation, right? Because they're feeling the magnetic pull. Now, the magnetic pull isn't towards this body. It's not towards someone. It's towards yourself. And the reason that this sharing happens like this is not to pull the energy towards anything on the surface of life. It's to pull you to where we are one, to the sameness. It's to pull the consciousness that you are, that's the same as the consciousness I am, the same one, the same divine wholeness that we are in truth, the self, the being, the Holy One, that we are where we are one with God, where we are one with Divine Mother, where we are resonating as the Om, as the Ma, as the Hrim, right? Where we're resonating at these fine frequencies. It's an invitation to say, attune with this. Om, Ma, Jai, right? It says attune with this, but it says it in the silence. It says it in the silent being, the resonance of silent being. Now we might say, well, this doesn't seem very silent, but these words, curiously, amazingly, are silence. These words are born of silence, carried as silence, and dissolve back into silence without ever coming into manifest appearance. They are flowing as silence. And so what happens as these words come is that the resonance of the openness, the resonance that is lived here, is moved as a flow. It flows, and then there's an enlivenment and attunement to the frequency as fine as is possible. And this awakening, enlivening of your own silence, your own consciousness, your own true nature, your own essence. And the enlivening is like a nourishing rasa. It's like a nourishing nectar, right? This is the nectarine bliss of being. It's nectarine because it's nourishing you with the true rasa, the true rasayana, the true nourishment that carries you deeper into your own consciousness, carries you deeper into yourself. Now, as you travel deeper into yourself, we meet even deeper. We meet not on the surface with names and stories. We meet in the twinkling shining of our knowing. We meet in the radiant love of the heart. We meet in the deep, abiding peace and silence of being unrattled in each other's presence, because we are so enamored in the recognition of the beauty of our own reflection, shining through the eye of another being that is just emanating this radiant truth, right? So the deeper you go, the deeper we meet. The deeper you go into the being, this also, by the grace of this glorious unfolding, this incredible wisdom, the deeper you go in the being, your resonance as it refines, that resonance, of course, uplifts the whole of consciousness. The reverberations of your recognition become the resonant reverberations that you are you're like an antenna. You're like a holy cell phone tower walking around, just putting out holy resonant frequencies, right? There's science that speaks about this stuff. This isn't just popping out of the silence, right? Scientists have proved that different, that even like joy and delight have different vibrations, of course, to anger, right? It's obvious, but it's been proved. So as you awaken more to the being and you open more to the fine frequency, what's this fine frequency? It's this subtle aliveness of your own presence, right? The more you attune with the subtle aliveness of your own presence of being, you start resonating at this finer frequency. And the finer of the frequency, the reverberations are uplifting the whole of consciousness. What a great service, right? But don't take hold of it as a me. You know, this kind of, well, I'm of service. Then you're absolutely not of service. As soon as the me comes in, then you're not resonating at the fine frequency. You're suddenly back in the denser frequency of the me, heavier, denser mind consciousness, right? Only when you are resonating as the being are you uplifting the whole. But of course, we all recognize that when you are resonating at a denser frequency, this also affects the whole. So it is to take responsibility for the resonance, the frequency that we are reverberating at. If we are raging anger and making projections, then those are the reverberations that we are putting out. The simple way to say this is that we are then collaborating with separation, right? As soon as we're in the dense sense of separation, we're collaborating, we're in an allegiance with separation, and then we're in allegiance with the imbalance of the collective consciousness. Whereas when we are resting in the being and in the finer frequency and the finer and finer and finer frequencies, we are uplifting the whole, right? In a way, we're not necessarily, when we're in allegiance with the imbalance, we're not necessarily, although we could be, bringing things down, but we're in the soup, right? We're in the soup, and we can recognize this when we go into certain environments, that we can feel those energies, right? Again, the more we're resting in the being is the ultimate protection, right? We're not touched. It's like wearing a suit of armor made of light, made of truth frequencies, right? Nothing can touch you when you're resting in the truth. You can feel denser energies, and it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable, but you're not necessarily taking it on. But these are the subtleties that come from feeling yourself, being able to feel the subtlety of the aliveness and the finer and finer frequencies. But the greatest protection is to be resting in the being, be resonating as the still, silent being in the deep, abiding peace of the wide open heart, and then resonating with as the flow of life, pure, unconditioned life, resonating as vitality. You're resonating as vital force, divine light, energy, right? You're uplifting the environment, you're uplifting the consciousness, and you're protected, right? By this kind of resting, you're not really concerned about taking on bad energies, because you know that there are no bad energies. You know that there's only one, and that one is divine wholeness, and that whatever the appearance is on the surface of life has to be the same one, the Holy One. So the invitation of every moment is to rest in the holiness of being, not with some idea of an ascension or exalted state that creates another myth that is really another layer of being separate, but that lets go into the divine reality, which is the silence of being. The true holiness is the purity of that which is not tainted by thought, right? You have never been tainted by a single thought in truth. But if you identify with thought, you can believe that you are, right? But you are the perfection that has never been tainted. You are the essence nature, the wholeness that has never been disturbed. But if you identify with those thoughts, you can believe that you are. You can move in conditioning, and you can believe that you are not enough, that you are unlovable, that you are somehow impure, when in truth you are always utter purity, right? Purity is divinity. Purity is quite simply that which is untainted. And that which is untainted is divine wholeness. And you are that, but you can only know that through being that. And that is inside the presence of being. It's not out there, right? The view out there, the external, is a projected world that the mind and the thoughts are projecting and creating. So if you are looking for divine wholeness in the projected world, you will always find tainted versions, right? You will always find a spirituality that is a partial truth, let's say. You can only find the whole truth inside your own being, inside your own light, inside your own purity. And here is the love that is without condition. Here is the life force that is without condition, that is flowing as all of life. It's the flow that brings the appearance of creation. And you are this in truth. But when you are in the knowing of the flow, you are flowing as divine reality, as divine life. And the creation of the appearance, the knowing is that this is divine life. This is the reality, all of it. There's no thoughts separating it out into good and bad and this and that one. And there's the knowing in your essence nature of what you are, right? So the knowing of the being is everything. And it's the knowing of the being that deepens into, it deepens from the cosmic consciousness into the unified consciousness, the knowing of the oneness that deepens into such a profound knowing of the oneness that there truly is no second, right? The gathering of the pieces in the oneness is consciousness recognizing itself in everything and recognizing this too is the one. This too is the oneness. This too is the oneness. And as this deep essence nature recognizes itself, this too is the oneness. This too is the oneness. It's like filling up the boat of pure consciousness. And when it is so full, the consciousness itself in a way capsizes, that it's so full of itself, so full of its parts that seems to be fragmented, so full of the pieces of itself that it capsizes and realizes its oneness, which is Brahman, which is God, right? The oneness that is one without a second. So it's like the gathering of the pieces where consciousness is saying this too, this too, this too, this too, and getting fuller and fuller and fuller and more shiny and radiant. And the knowing is growing in its shininess, its brilliance. It's growing in its radiance. And the heart is brimming with love in this radiance, because the love is, it loves this, and it loves this, and it loves this, and it loves this too, and it loves that too, and it loves this. And oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're loving yourself, loving everything, everything. Even this that I thought I would never love, I love, I love, I love, I love. And such a brimming fullness that there's a capsizing out of the gathering, out of the sense of the unified being, in a way, to just being one with the divine wholeness. And in that union, there's no sense of being other than. It's not me and God here. It's just God, right? So this sense of this too is God, this too is God, this too is Ma, this too is love, this too capsizes into only that. And what happens is that this sense of, in a way, there's like a first disappearance where the person disappears into the cosmic unlimited vastness, right? There's a disappearance, and then the gathering, and then the second disappearance. The first disappearance brings us to feel that you are existence, and you feel that you are the presence, the alive presence, existence itself. And then in the gathering of the pieces, the sense of existing as something, even a field, dissolves into the knowing of itself. We could say it dissolves into being existence itself so fully that it doesn't reference itself even as existing. And the sense of the self is that there's only the self. Now, some beings would speak of this as being no self, because there's no sense of being anything. And yet, here, the isness, the amness, right, is still here. There's a shiningness that is still here. So we get glimpses of this, we get tastes of this, and every glimpse, it's nectarine. Every glimpse, it's nectarine, because it brings a depth of nourishment that is so nutritious. It's so nutritious that it deepens. It's like a rasa, it's like a deep essence nutrition. And this essence brings more and more of the bliss of just being yourself. So as we gather the pieces of oneness, we could say, in the knowing, we are drinking in more of this divine nourishment through the felt sense of the bliss. But the bliss is like the flow. It's the flow of life, the flow of the aliveness. Everything is so alive. Everything is flowing. And there's love, and there's light, and there's flowing life, right? Now, don't get stuck on the way that these words are expressing, because it's different at every point. Really just be with the resonance of what's being shared here, right? Don't get stuck on the words. Just the resonance is bringing the aliveness and the flow of the knowing of being, the flow of unconditioned life. And that when there's the felt sense of just being, there's a sense of this blissful contentedness, of being so wide, so open, so blissful. It's the equanimity and the bliss of being, this peaceful flow. And this peaceful flow, it has this kind of byproduct, which is this blissful nourishment, this essence nature, that when we really drink it in, the bliss, it carries us deeper and it nourishes the flow that allows the gathering of the pieces to feel smoother. Bliss is the greatest nourishment. Bliss, divine bliss, is the greatest nourishment. It's the greatest nourishment, the greatest protection. But we can't cultivate it falsely in any other way than by being in the knowing of the being and the flow of that knowing, and really opening in the openness to just keep receiving our own essence nature and flowing in the aliveness and drinking in the bliss of being. We make a divine, delicious elixir, right? And we drink it in, this blissful elixir. We drink it in. It's called soma namaha, right? So we drink in this elixir of divine nourishment. Now we can drink this in the life in so many ways, when we're in alignment, when life is flowing and we're in alignment. But never is the soma, this elixir, this nectar, more potent than when we are reveling in the divine bliss and really feeling the knowing of being the being and flowing in the knowing of the being. Then this nectar is very, very potent, very, very potent indeed. The potency of this bliss can really feel quite ecstatic. It can carry us into ecstatic, rapturous, blissful remembering. And that kind of rapture, that kind of ecstatic recognition of your own holiness is even more nourishing, right? The more that we revel in the nourishment, the more nourishing it is. And the more the revelation of what we are, the wisdom shines, the knowing shines more and more, until we are drunk, till we are divinely intoxicated with the goodness, the holiness of being one with oneness. So that there's such a disappearance of any sense of being someone into the divine holiness, the divine wholeness, right? So as these words come, just to feel the resonance and attune with the resonance at whatever capacity there is, right? Not to be creating mind ideas or letting the mind say, oh, I'm not getting it, I wish I could be deeper in. Just to drink in the nectar that is flowing, right? It's like magic wine. This is why Rumi would speak about the wine, right? It was a code word, of course. Take a big cupful of your own goodness, of your own holiness, and just drink it in. Take another big cupful. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. Take another big cupful of your own sense of being the being, and just drink it in, all of it. And while you're here, just take another big cupful of your own beingness, your own knowingness, your own resonating, remembering. Double it and just drink it in. Right? Feel the aliveness of your own essence nature. Feel the aliveness and the flow of knowing the being that you are, flowing. Wherever and however there is a receiving of these words, just to open to receive. There's nothing to understand. There's nothing to get. Right back to where we started. Just to be here unprotected, unguarded, totally revealed, open, empty, and just receiving the flow. This too, this too, this too. Just to drink it in, even if the mind is saying, I have no idea what is going on here. Drink it in anyway. Drink it all in. Even if the mind says, I don't know how to drink it in. Just know that you are drinking it in because you are the one. You are the Holy One. And the part of you that already knows this is drinking it in. It's drinking it in secretly. That is the grace of how the wisdom flows. The refinement is happening anyway in the unseen, just through being here. And in a way, being aware of every thought that might want to try to limit and to see that's just a thought. That's just a thought. Aware of the thoughts, you are free of the thoughts. And the awareness of the thoughts, it's in the awareness, in the consciousness, the pure consciousness, that the transformation is happening. We are transmuting discordant patterns in the field. We're bringing more radiance. We're allowing the reverberations of this resting here, this flowing here. The reverberations are uplifting everyone in the unseen. And the reverberations are reverberating in the one pure consciousness. So there is grace flowing here. Grace flowing, whether it can be seen or known, it doesn't matter the depth of the available receptivity. It's being received, and it's bringing true healing, because what it is healing is the sense of separation. It's the only healing we really need, is to heal the sense of separation. When we heal the sense of separation, we heal out of mind consciousness into the cosmic consciousness, the universal consciousness. And here, there is freedom. And once we are in this freedom, we're in the flow of consciousness, and everything that's transforming and healing even more deeply the discordant patterns and conditionings and karmic obscurations. It's all happening naturally. But it is a constant invitation to be aware of where the attention is resting, and to keep bringing the attention back, and to keep allowing this graced flow of refinement, drinking in this nourishment, drinking in the knowing of yourself, and really having the awake awareness to see where the collaboration is with mind consciousness and protection, and use this flow of wisdom through being the being to iron out those kinks, iron out those wrinkles, and not attach to memory and past, but to come to the presence of being here now, where there is no past and there is no future, that in truth you are not of time. In truth you are here now as the timeless, infinite, eternal presence of being yourself right here now, shining as yourself. And so here, the fineness of the flow of dynamic silence, it is to feel that resonance in your own consciousness. You feel the felt sense of the alive presence, and you feel this in your own consciousness. And where you feel the aliveness, the way that you drink it in is just to feel and be with the subtle feeling of the aliveness. The more the perception opens to subtly perceive, then you will notice there is a deepening in the refinement of the frequency. It gets finer and finer and finer. And as the frequency gets finer, the ability to subtly perceive gets finer, because it's consciousness being conscious of itself. Conscious awareness is conscious of itself. And this is where all of the true healing and transformation is happening. This is true healing, pure healing. It's healing the discordant patterns that create suffering and misery. It's clearing the karmic obscurations. It's clearing the conditioning that creates the sense of being a separate human that is in the conditioned state, and releases the human into being, into divine wholeness, so that in a way the humanness resonates as divine reality, and the body housing gets upgraded and cultured to receive finer and finer frequencies. So the body consciousness gets upgraded. The debris in the different layers gets transmuted and healed on the layers of the physical, on the layers of the subtle, on the mental, in the mind realm, right? Which is where there's these holding patterns, these conditioned holding patterns that we could sometimes call the subconscious. All of this gets upgraded through resting in the being and the ever deepening knowing in consciousness, the refinement in consciousness. It upgrades all of these layers so that what we call the body, just an idea of just being this physical lump, it gets upgraded, and it looks like the same body, but it's resonating inside with divine light. This is where Ramakrishna would say about his appearance, he would say, just a pillowcase, right? Right? This is what he was speaking of, right? Looks like a body, but it's resonating with divine bliss, right? And so we get refined and refined and refined in this way, so that more of this divine reality can be resonating inside the pillowcase. And the pillowcase are the laws of nature, right? And the laws of nature are what you physically, in a way, look like, and certain traits, we could say. It can all get as refined and refined as it can. At a certain point, it surrenders itself because it's no longer necessary, right? And in truth, of course, it's got to find a way to surrender itself. So it creates whatever conditions it needs to surrender itself. The body surrenders itself back into divine wholeness. The manifest appearance surrenders itself back into the unmanifest, right? But in truth, what you are doesn't change. What you are is the flow of life, the divine reality. You're the life that's giving life to the form and giving life to the manifest appearance. You are the life that is flowing as all of that. And you are the life that is still alive when all of that disappears, right? You are the life in life. You are the divine life, the divine reality. And so what you are never changes. It has never changed. And the depth of that recognition when the body drops is what determines what that little bundle of life that you are, that bundle of consciousness, it determines where that consciousness flows next within the whole one scheme, right? It's all one consciousness, whether it's in manifest appearance or whether it's in the unmanifest. But what you are is neither the unmanifest or the manifest. You're the essence. You're the essence. You're the glory. You're the life, the divine life. You are Ma, divine wholeness, power, glory. This is what we are in truth. Right? So just to feel the resonance as these words come, just to feel the resonance, feel the aliveness in what you feel yourself to be, in the sense of being, in the aliveness of the being, just to feel the resonance. Just to feel the resonance. The resonance is silence. It's a silence that almost seems to get more and more silent because the frequency of the silence refines. It gets purer and purer. But of course, purity isn't getting purer. It's that the obscurations are dissolving. It's that the veils are thinning. And so your lived direct experience of this truth gets more and more fine, right? Now, this is what is unfolding. Of course, purity isn't getting purer. Of course, divine wholeness isn't getting more whole. but as a point of the whole, a point value, as a point value of the whole. Your knowing of this truth is getting clearer. Your knowing of this truth is resonating more finely, more aligned with divine wholeness. And as you are resonating in the alignment more with divine wholeness, that is where this essence is, this elixir, this nectar, right? It's in the unified field in the flow. It's like a nectarine field. It's like a whole field of bliss, right? An ocean of bliss. And when you can rest here and just drink in this, it's very uplifting and very, very nourishing. You feel it in the aliveness. You feel it in the knowing of the being. You feel it in the subtle perception of the aliveness, which is resonating finer and finer frequencies. And as the healing and transformation happens of our discordant patternings that create the sense of personal, we refine and we refine. Every time that some discordant patterning refines, the reverberations uplift the whole. So everywhere where beings are doing this work and resonating at these fine frequencies, as we open into these finer frequencies, we're joining with this ocean of finer frequencies, right? And in the joining, even more upliftment, right? Every time that there's a joining in the oneness, it's the same as would get spoken of something like the Gayatri mantra, right? That there's beings that have been constantly reciting this for thousands of years, right? It's been continuously, or like a jyotir light, right? That was lit and has been continued on. It's like joining that fine resonant field, right? Whenever you're joining at a certain resonance, at a certain fine resonance, and the joining, it brings more of a potency, right? So what we're speaking of is the potency in this realm, in this manifested earth realm, let's say. So as we join, we're bringing that divine wholeness that's in the unmanifest. We're bringing it to the manifest to uplift this realm in a way. That's really what we're speaking of when we join in this way, that we're uplifting the collective consciousness that is dancing as this manifest realm. But we're also, of course, we're of this, but we're also not, right? We're before even this whole manifest realm. We're before this. And yet, of course, if we're here, we're here with a service, right? So resting here feeling the resonance of recognition, recognizing as the consciousness, as the intelligence of consciousness, recognizing the frequency, the subtle perception of the being, knowing its own beingness. And where the knowing is enlivened, it is to feel the flow of life, feel the aliveness of the presence, and just to be here, just to be here, just to be here. In divine collaboration, drinking in the nectar of your own holiness, your own oneness with oneness, oneness with oneness. And where the resonance of truth is, it's recognition, it's realization, right? It's recognizing, remembering this familiar knowing of what you are and being one with the essence nature of the one that you are, the Holy One, the one with a capital O. Can feel the enlivened silence. Just to so curiously and openly explore your own alive presence, your own awake consciousness. To notice if there is the recognition of the frequency. It feels like it's in the body, but when you really feel like it, it's everywhere. But you might feel like your body is resonating, because what happens is that it's like we go out into the infinite divine wholeness, and then the body gets filled with it. Ooh, like the antenna. And we go out and the body is filled with it, right? Because the body isn't this physicality where we're getting filled on this layer with the divine resonance. So just to feel the subtlety, just to feel the subtlety, just to be comfortable with not understanding, just to be comfortable with feeling a little more alive, to feel comfortable with feeling your own presence like a vibration, to feel that your body is resonating or vibrating at a different kind of frequency. Sometimes as well, this will bring little kriyas, it will bring funny little movements or mudras. It will bring whatever it brings, right? It has to all just come very naturally. Might even just feel like it just brings a feeling of wanting to stretch your toes or stretch your fingers. But in a way, those kind of stretches can be like little mudras, that we just don't know the terms for them, but it doesn't matter. We just let whatever wants to happen just happen. If there's a feeling of wanting to stretch or rock or move or whatever comes through, of course, you're welcome to jump into a headstand as well, if that's what comes forward. But don't hold anything back. Cartwheels are welcome. Anything at all. Sounds, you're on mute. Wow, you can just let whatever wants to move. And it's very important as we come into the knowingness, as we come into the finer frequencies, that we're not kind of frozen in our human staticness that says, I'm a lump, I'm just going to stay here, just being a lump of flesh, that we start to feel like, whoa, everything's coming alive. Whoa, my hands are coming alive. Everything is tingling, right? Let your toes tingle. If you feel them tingling, give them a stretch. Give your hands a little stretch. Whatever's tingling, whatever's pulsing. It might just be that the soundscape feels like the nadam, the silence, the sound of the silence feels like it's roaring, right? Just whatever you notice, whatever you notice, don't make it right or wrong, but just notice what's being noticed. Just to be here now, just allowing, deep, deep, absorbed in the being. As these words are coming, as the pointings come, it's pointing inward. It's still pointing inward, right? Everything is pointing into yourself, into your own divine wholeness, into your own light.